So in this video, we're going to talk about the correct way to set up and work with the C-stand. I'm going to go through a couple of parts first really quickly, just so that everybody understands how that works. This is the breakdown of a general C-stand. This right here, most people would call this the base. The industry actually calls this a turtle. The way these open up differ depending on the brand of C-stand that you're working on. Now the ones that they have here at Columbia, in my opinion, are the safest because they've actually got a locking mechanism on it. This locking pin, it's a collar, it actually pulls away from the bottom of the base to release, and then it lets go and re-engages to lock back up again. So it's a really good system. Regardless of the system that you use, you actually need to get it loosened up, and then starting with the bottom foot, you rotate. And this will rotate all the way around. It opens up completely like this. And then again, this lock will then set back in, and this thing will not close up now. So these are actually the really good C-stands. That's the other thing. So C-stand, Sentry stand are the names that people will actually call these. These are designed to be modular. You can start with the lowest of them all. This is actually, we call this a stud or a pin. There's a somewhat derogatory other name for it we won't get into. Anyway, it'll fit in like this right here, and then you have a floor stand. If we take this out, this is the standard 40-inch column. It goes in, does the same thing. There actually is a 20-inch column, so again, it's a modular system. It's designed to be this way. It's a terrific system, works really well. And then finally, this is an arm. That's what they call this thing. That's really this part right here is the arm. These things that are one is actually runs up and down the arm, the other is permanently fixed to this. These are called knuckles. So at any rate, before we get to setting up any more of this, the one thing I want to sort of stress in this is these things are designed to gang together. I'll show you what that actually looks like in just a second. But it's really important to think about how you put these things together so that you can get the maximum amount of flexibility out of it. And so the first trick that we need to know is that wherever this tightening nut is, right down here on the bottom, you want these two nuts right here to line up with it. You want all of these actually in a row. If we then go to add the arm on top of this, you'll see that there is another tightening part right here. There's another tightening nut right here. It also lines up with these guys right here. And then finally, this knuckle loosens up right here. We're going to turn this. Now, some people do it. I do it this way. I do it so that I've got all of these tightening nuts in a row right here. Some people will actually re-rig it, and they'll set this top knuckle facing out the same way this one is right here. So that's basically the way you would want to set this up. When you carry a C-stand, it's really critical. Most people's inclination would be simply to grab the stand like this. And the problem with that is that when you hand this to someone else, if they grab it correctly, and the correct way to grab this is to actually pinch the arm as well. If you have grabbed it wrong, like I'm holding it right now, and somebody grabs it correctly, they will crush your fingers. So the correct way to actually pick up and move a C-stand is to grab and pinch the arm, and you carry it like this. And that way when somebody else grabs it, you don't lose your fingers. Okay, so that's the basic setup part of this right now. We've got to talk about a couple of other things here. I'm going to pull this arm off to begin with. We are going to set a light on it. And this would be just a simple, basic way to have this set up and designed to shoot with. However, in our case right here, you'll notice on this base right here, these legs are at 3 different heights, and that's really important because this allows these to actually nest together. And what I mean by nesting together is you can see I've got another small C-stand right here. I can actually take this, drop it over the other one, and I get the columns extremely close to one another. That's really difficult to do with a Speedo stand or a pick stand or just a regular folding up light stand. So that's one of the beautiful things about it. However, safety first. When you actually use these, You'll see in here in the studio in Columbia, these things are marked where to put the sandbag. All your stands should be sandbagged. It's just a matter of safety. These things can fall, and you just need to be careful about that part. So the sandbag always goes on the tallest of the legs, like this. And the reason it does that is that this is now, you can see, if I try to move this around, very, very steady. However, if I go on the lowest side and I sandbag that side, you see what ends up happening is that the sandbag itself is resting mostly on the floor, and this will simply pull straight out. There's no real, it's not really engaged here at all. So this is not how you do bag a stand. It's more always on the top guy right here. Now you can also add sandbags all the way around. The more secure, the better. So a huge debate about C-stands. What to do with the cord. So I've had this fight with more assistants and more photographers, and the easiest way to answer the debate is to simply show it to you. With a C-stand set up like this, light like this, I go ahead and I take this cord right out here and I plug it into a power pack. Let me scoop this over just a little bit more. I plug it into a power pack. Everything's great, the cord's running along the ground. Somebody trips on the cord and this happens. Not good. Instead, you run the cord underneath the turtle, like this. And now, same scenario. The cord's going out to the power pack. Somebody trips on it and they pull the stand to you and it doesn't fall over and it doesn't break. So again, cords always go underneath C-stands to actually protect that part. I'm going to add the arm again really quick. So now we need to talk about knuckles. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. So I'm going to try to put this in the center so you guys can see it. And so I'm sure some of you at least have heard righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And what they are really talking about now is if I've got this thing, so the knuckle is actually pointing towards me. And what that means is, I'll pull this arm out for just a second. What that means is, if I twist the tightening mechanism here to the right, it tightens down. If I go to the left, it loosens up. And the reason this is important for us is how you ultimately rig on top of this. So I'm going to show you the correct way and the wrong way and why. So I'm just going to twist this around to make this a small extension for my stand right here. I'm going to put a head on it. Raise it up a little bit so you can see me. So in this case right now, and there's not a ton of weight here, but you can actually rig these stands that end up with an enormous amount of weight on this, and that's when they become a little bit unstable, and this really comes into play. But it's just you should be in the habit of rigging things correctly all along. You'll notice right now, my foot is on the bottom of the C-stand. I don't touch a C-stand, I don't adjust a C-stand without a foot on it to actually add additional balance and additional security so this thing doesn't go down. But what the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey thing is all about is this. If I actually have this head moving in the correct direction, so this is now moving off to the right for me, what will happen is over time, if this knuckle loosens up, and it will over time, as it starts to move in this direction, the actual movement of the head tightens the knuckle back down. So it becomes very secure. So as long as it's going in this direction, you're good to go because it's tightening the knuckle down. However, if I go in the opposite direction and I'm going off this way, it's just the opposite ends up happening on this. Hang on one second, let me get this out. So now in this case, the exact opposite holds true. If over time this begins to loosen and this starts to go like this, it actually undoes the knuckle, it loosens it up, and this whole thing will fall and crash out. So again, the way that I typically rig this, it's easier for me, is I go behind it, the weight is always going away from me. I know that I want the knuckle always on the right side, as opposed to this, weight's going away from me again, knuckles on the left side. So again, this is rigged wrong. This will actually release and fall. Whereas this will not. This will only get tighter. I'm going to put this head back on the stand really quick. I know it seems obvious for people who've been working in the studio any time at all. This will be obvious, but it bears saying. When you go to raise this stand up, again, foot on the base of the stand, always to protect it, you want to start with the top section. You want to start here at the top section like this. What you don't want to do is start with the bottom section, get it all the way up there, and then come up and do this. This is not any way to rig, and if anybody sees you do this, they know you didn't go to Columbia College. So anyway, start with the bottom, it raises up first. Start with the next part, it raises up as well. Last suggestion that I'll make about this is that you want to be watching where that thing is actually going up to. So again, for me, leg down on the stand, secure. I can watch how high this goes. I know I'm not hitting anything that I need to actually worry about. So finally, almost done. If we go back and re-rig this, like I asked you to in the very beginning. So again, the tightening things are all in one direction. This gets added to it. This, again, the way I rig it is like this, but again, it's not going to be the end of the world till we get like this. The advantage of having it like this is that, again, these will nest. And so what we mean by nesting is this. Now, I typically, when I'm trying to nest things, I start with the longest leg away from me. The next stand comes in, also the longest leg away from you and always to the right side. So it just locks in like this. And you can see these nests. I'll do a shorter one right here. Same deal, they all nest together. The beautiful thing about this is this allows you to move them collectively. So anyway, a lot of studios just leave theirs out like this. This is how they would have it set up. If I had another arm and knuckle on this, it again would nest correctly with this one. And then finally, here at Columbia, we actually use these giant carts to actually hold a whole series of C-stands. It makes them really portable and makes this thing really movable. So again, to use it, get all this stuff to line up the way that we have talked about. Then I'm going to, again, pin the arm to pick this up, pull the collar out, rotate it so it collapses the legs. And then I don't know if you can see on this, I'll show you from the side down here. These things, when they go on the cart, they alternate every other one. So every other one's on the right side, left side, left side. So this one right here is in front. Means this one needs to go on this side, and then this nut just hooks on the edge of the cart, and you can do an entire row of carts like this, alternating back and forth. And I think that's it.